Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are stepping into the invisible arena of elite performance. When we watch the Olympics or the Super Bowl, we are often seduced by the physical spectacle. We marvel at the explosion of fast-twitch muscle fibers in a sprinter's legs, the biomechanical perfection of a tennis serve, or the sheer aerobic capacity of a marathon runner. We measure greatness in milliseconds, inches, and kilograms. Yet, if you ask the athletes themselves, those rare few who have stood on the top step of the podium, they will tell you that the physical battle was merely the price of admission. The real war was fought in a place cameras cannot reach, the 6 inches between their ears. As legendary swimmer Michael Phelps has noted, at the Olympic level, everyone is talented, and everyone trains hard. The difference is, who can handle the pressure, and who can control their mind when their body is screaming to stop. This is the invisible arena. It is a domain governed not by physics, but by psychology and neuroscience. It is where flow states turn difficult tasks into effortless art, where quiet eye mechanics allow a batter to see a 100-mile-per-hour fastball as if it were suspended in gelatin, and where resilience transforms catastrophic failure into fuel. For decades, sports psychology was viewed as a remedial measure, something for athletes who were choking or broken. Today, it is the new frontier of human potential. Teams employ armies of mental performance coaches, neuroscientists, and data analysts to optimize the athlete's brain just as meticulously as they optimize their nutrition. Let us delve into the comprehensive machinery of the champion's mind, exploring the traits that define mental toughness, the cognitive strategies used to bend reality, and the cutting-edge neuroscience of the zone. We begin with the architecture of mental toughness. This term is often tossed around as a cliché, but in the scientific community, it is a measurable construct. It is not simply the ability to push through pain, but a complex psychological architecture that allows an athlete to remain consistent, confident, and focused in the face of extreme stress. A key component of this is resilience, specifically the art of the bounce back. Research suggests that elite athletes do not experience fewer negative emotions than amateurs. They simply process and discard them faster. This capacity is often linked to an athlete's explanatory style, which is how they explain setbacks to themselves. A champion typically possesses an optimistic explanatory style, viewing failure as temporary, specific, and external. For example, they might say, "I missed that shot because my footwork was slightly off today, not because I am a bad shooter." This allows for immediate correction. Conversely, an amateur often adopts a pessimistic explanatory style, viewing failure as permanent, pervasive, and internal, telling themselves, "I missed because I am a choker and always mess up in big moments." This leads to a spiral of performance anxiety. Consider the famous 1997 flu game, where Michael Jordan scored 38 points while visibly ill. His resilience was not just physical toughness, but a refusal to accept the narrative of weakness. He reframed the illness not as a barrier, but as a new challenge to be solved. This connects to the concept of self-regulation and appraisal. According to the cognitive motivational relational theory of emotion proposed by psychologist Richard Lazarus, stress is not inherent in an event like a penalty kick. Stress arises from our appraisal of that event. There is a primary appraisal where one asks, "Is this a threat to my goals?" And a secondary appraisal where one asks, "Do I have the resources to cope with this threat?" Champions excel at secondary appraisal. When faced with a tie game in the final minute, a novice might appraise the situation as a threat, fearing loss. A champion appraises it as a challenge, seeing a chance to shine. This subtle shift changes the body's physiological response, from a cortisol-driven freeze response to an adrenaline-driven mobilization of energy. Underlying all of this is grit, a concept popularized by Angela Duckworth, defined as passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. The journey to the Olympics is often boring, involving years of staring at a black line on the bottom of a pool. Elite athletes possess a unique ability to delay gratification, fueled by autonomous motivation from self-determination theory. They are not just training to please a coach, which would be extrinsic motivation. They are training because they have a deep, intrinsic need for competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Beyond natural traits, champions actively use a cognitive toolkit to shape their performance. Visualization, or imagery, is perhaps the most widely cited tool. Effective visualization is not just daydreaming about winning. It is multisensory and vividly detailed. The functional equivalence hypothesis states that imagining a movement activates the same neural pathways as actually performing it. When a skier visualizes a course, her brain sends microsignals to her leg muscles, priming them for the exact sequence of turns. A prime example is Michael Phelps. His coach taught him to play a videotape in his head every night before sleep. He would visualize the perfect race, down to the number of strokes and the feeling of the water. Crucially, they also visualized disaster scenarios. In the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Phelps' goggles filled with water during the 200-meter butterfly, blinding him. Because he had mentally rehearsed swimming blind hundreds of times, he did not panic. He counted his strokes, touched the wall, and won gold. To his brain, it was just another repetition. Another tool is self-talk. The average person speaks to themselves at a rate of 4,000 words per minute internally. Elite athletes train this inner voice to be a coach, rather than a critic. They use instructional self-talk for technical precision, such as telling themselves to keep an elbow high, and motivational self-talk to regulate effort. Research shows that self-talk tailored to the specific demands of the task significantly boosts performance. Then there is the quiet eye phenomenon, identified by researcher Joan Vickers. This is the final fixation of gaze on a specific target before the initiation of a motor movement. Studies show that elite athletes maintain this fixation significantly longer and earlier than near-elite counterparts. This long gaze allows the brain's motor cortex to process spatial information and organize the neural network required for the movement. It effectively quiets the neural noise. When an athlete chokes, their gaze often becomes erratic. Training to stabilize the gaze calms the brain and restores accuracy. To understand these mechanisms deeply, we must look at theoretical frameworks. One is the individual zones of optimal functioning, or IZOF. This model challenges the idea that low anxiety is always good. Instead, it posits that every athlete has a unique zone of emotional arousal where they perform best. Some athletes are like Zen masters, performing best with calmness. Others are like rage monsters, needing high anxiety and anger to perform. The job of the athlete is to know their zone and use emotional regulation to get there. Then there is the flow state, often called the zone. This is a state of total immersion where action and awareness merge, characterized by a loss of self-consciousness and a distorted sense of time. Flow occurs when the challenge of the task is high and the athlete's skill level is equally high. If the challenge exceeds skill, anxiety results. If skill exceeds challenge, boredom sets in. Modern neuroscience has begun to reveal the hardware of greatness using fMRI and EEG studies. Interestingly, the neural efficiency hypothesis shows that an expert's brain actually shows less cortical activation than a novice's during performance. The novice brain is inefficient, recruiting unnecessary neurons in the prefrontal cortex and limbic system. The expert brain has streamlined the task into the motor cortex and cerebellum, running on autopilot and consuming less metabolic energy. This relates to transient hypofrontality, a theory explaining the flow state. During intense performance, the prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of the inner critic and self-analysis, temporarily shuts down. This allows the implicit, subconscious systems to take over without interference. This is why overthinking is the enemy of performance. When an athlete starts thinking about their mechanics, they reactivate the prefrontal cortex, disrupting the flow. We can even see this in brainwaves. Elite athletes often engage in alpha states, associated with relaxed alertness, just before performance. During flow, brainwaves may slow down to the border of alpha and theta, a state usually seen in deep meditation. This state is supported by a neurochemical cocktail including dopamine for focus, norepinephrine for arousal, endorphins for pain management, and anandamide, the bliss molecule associated with the runner's high. No athlete achieves this alone. The modern champion is supported by a sophisticated psychological infrastructure. There is a distinction between mental performance coaches, who focus on optimization and taking an athlete from good to great, and clinical sports psychologists, who focus on health and treating issues like anxiety and trauma. Organizations like the NBA and the International Olympic Committee have formalized these roles, recognizing that elite athletes are susceptible to mental health issues due to extreme pressure. Technology also plays a role. Virtual reality allows batters to face virtual pitchers to train decision-making without physical wear and tear. Biofeedback and neurofeedback allow athletes to control games on a screen with their mind, learning to voluntarily lower their heart rate or increase alpha waves to manage their stress response physically. Finally, we must address recovery. The mind of a champion knows when to turn off. Psychological detachment, or the ability to mentally disconnect from the sport, is crucial for preventing burnout. Active brain recovery is more effective than passive scrolling on a phone. This includes exposure to nature, which replenishes attentional resources, and engaging in hobbies that utilize different neural pathways. Sleep hygiene is also paramount, as sleep is when neuroplasticity cements the skills learned during the day. Sleep deprivation creates a false hypofrontality due to exhaustion, leading to poor decision-making. In conclusion, the psychology of elite athletic performance has evolved from a bag of tricks to a comprehensive science. It acknowledges that the mind of a champion requires focus, resilience, and joy. Perhaps the most important evolution is the recognition that the athlete and the person are indivisible. Cases like Simone Biles withdrawing from events to protect her mental safety demonstrate the ultimate mental toughness, the strength to say no when the world demands a yes. Greatness is no longer just about standing on the podium. It is about the mastery of the self. As the boundaries of physical performance are pushed to their limits, the next world records will be broken not by bigger muscles, but by better minds. The future of sport is internal. Thank you for listening to G Fun Facts Online.